Welcome to the Once Upon an Island podcast. I'm your host, Wesley, and of course, I'm joined by my lovely co-host,
Mary.
And Mary, did we tell everyone that next week we have a special guest joining us?
I think you mentioned it.
Oh, I think we mentioned it. I talked to the special guest, and they're like, I'm not sure if I should comment on the video and tell everyone I'll be there. I'm like, nobody knows who you are. It'll be fine. And that's fair. Nobody knows who they are. But I think they will be a different point of view. That's for sure. So
It'll be fun.
It'll be very fun. Yeah. So next week we'll have a special guest. But anyways, this week is the week we are here for, and we just had an epic tribal council with everything that happened. Misplaying of advantages. It was beautiful. We'll get all into that.
Tribal.
You know, tribal's gonna be good when it's like 25 minutes to go in the hour, and we're going to tribal. It's like, oh, there's a lot of tribal tonight.
Yeah, I was very confused. At first, I was like, are they going to continue on after tribal, or is tribal just that massive tonight? And it was.
It was massive, that's for sure. So a few things before we get into all this. As always, we have chapter markers for you here. We're going to do a breakdown of the entire episode, top to bottom. We will, of course, talk about the Rebus puzzle, and Mary will tell you what the solution was to it. And, of course, I've noticed this, Mary, our most popular section is the winner analysis section. And I did make some changes this week to my supposed lock-on list.
I thought it was locked down. You can make changes to a lockdown list.
One person's locked down. The other two, I'm like, I'm fluctuating now. It's hard. We hit the merge. And then after the winner analysis, we'll do a very brief section on what I'm going to call the weekly purple edit, because there's one person getting purpled so hard. I feel like we just need to check in on them. What are they up to? Because the show doesn't care. And then we will do TV ratings. That will be much shorter this week. Last week, there was a lot more to talk about. And then, of course, your guys' questions. So with that, let's get into it.
Let's go.
Well, the beginning of this episode started with last time on Survivor, previously on Survivor. And it was like, whoa. This feels like a real first this season. They actually have, I guess they had some spare time, I was thinking.
Yeah, it did feel like a lot of information. And I know it has been a whole week. It's not like we're binging this or anything, but it was a lot. I was like, is this all really necessary? I don't know. Maybe
previously
it was.
on Survivor. Well, when I rewatched it, I noticed they really dived into who is what advantage. And it wasn't like everyone who has an advantage. Like, it didn't tell us about like Danny having an extra vote, for example, but it reminded us that Deshaun, I think it said Deshaun had an extra vote. Maybe Danny doesn't have an extra vote. Maybe Danny was the one who played it safe. I forget. This is why they did a whole thing at the beginning.
I guess that's true.
They're like, here's everyone's advantages. They're like, Nasir has an idol. Shan has an idol. Xander has an idol, obviously. They're like, Liana has the knowledge is power. And like, again, this week, this is like I feel like this is the third week in a row. Ever since she got it, every week she's like, I have to ask the right person the right question. It's like, okay, we get it. She says like 4 times this episode. So anyways, that was in the beginning of this episode. It was like kind of catching up on all the advantages. And you know what?
Which is probably needed since there is so much going on.
I feel like they might just need to do that every week. Maybe we need to bring back previously on Survivor. Not to know what the story of the season is, because who cares about that? We just need to know what advantages everyone has to be reminded. So it was nice. I have no complaints about it. Let's see. Then we cut over to Exile Island. Erica, does she smash the hourglass, Mary?
Did we go to Exile Island?
That's the first thing we went to after last time on Survivor.
I thought it was that the challenge.
Nope.
That's all I remember.
Full disclosure, we had family over last night and they would not get out of the house on time for Survivor. So the whole first 5 minutes were kind of a blur. I had to rewatch it because we're like, please either be quiet or leave because I need to watch. I have a problem. That's what I said. No. So I'm sorry. So you may not have seen it.
I was a little distracted.
That's okay. Yeah. So we had Exile Island, and Erica basically has a bunch of pretty shots of her sitting around pondering. And she goes to the top of the island. She's pondering up there.
Oh, I do remember that because she's talking about how Exile has like helped her be her most authentic self and stuff like that. Okay.
It was like part 2 of a sob story. Right. I felt like a continuation from last week, which I'm not even dogging on Erica because on Twitter, which I rarely check, but on Twitter, she's being hilarious because she's fully embracing all the time travel memes that were posted this past week, which I think like 80% of them were really good. That's just a random number. Don't like be like, oh, all right. So 4 out of every 5 memes, they really like, no. So anyway, she's like sitting there pondering, but obviously we go to tribal. Jeff explains it to everybody. Everybody's like, the heck, Erica's like, of course I smashed it. And then she gets immunity. And so if I recall correctly, Xander, Liana, Tiffany, there's 2 other people all get immunity.
Heather.
Was Heather one of them? Yeah, that's right. She was on the this is the greatest
And Shan,
teamwork
right?
of all time. Yeah, and Shan. You're right. It was almost all women, except for Xander. So they all got immunity, which leaves Deshaun, Danny, Evie, Sydney,
Ricard.
and Ricard up for elimination.
And Nasir.
And Nasir, I feel so bad for him, but thankfully he wasn't even considered a target. But I let's talk about the immunity challenge real quick. You and I were watching this, and I'm like, there's no way I could do this.
Well, it's a common Survivor challenge. We've seen it several times, but yes, no, I don't.
No, I'm not saying it was like crazy. I'm just like, every time I watch, I'm like, could I do that?
It's
No.
a difficult challenge.
Sometimes
for
I see challenges, I'm like, yeah, I could do that. And I see this one, I'm like, not even close. My foot would I would just knock blocks over.
I'm probably slightly more coordinated, but I did break my
With your
foot
feet?
one time, and so it cramps up now if it's in like used too extreme. I feel like it would just cramp up, so that would not be fun.
Yeah.
It's really difficult. I mean, it looks hilarious, but
to watch people do it.
yeah, I think it looks
It was
hilarious.
a close race too. It was like
super close.
Evie, Sydney, and Ricard was super close. And Nasir nor Danny were really in it. Not close enough to be part of the back and forth editing, but it was like Evie, Sydney. Oh no, Evie knocks like one block over, and that was like just enough for it to be like Sydney, Ricard. It's like inches away, like Sydney is, and then Ricard gets it, and it's like, well, Ricard probably wasn't going to be a target, but who knows? Who knows? I mean, if you had one immunity, there's only whoever doesn't win immunity. There's only 4 people eligible, and we went to tribal, and 3 of them were seriously talked about. So.
Right.
Yeah, you could have
Who
been.
knows?
Yeah, so Ricard wins immunity. And,
but they were all ticked. Like Deshaun, as soon as Jeff was done explaining it, you could just see in their faces. And then I just thought it was interesting. Well, later we find out that Danny is really ticked. But Jeff asked Deshaun what he thinks. And I thought Deshaun was pretty mad at that, like right in that moment. Later on, I think he got used to it. But he said that, this is not the game I was used to. I was not expecting this.
Yeah.
But then he's like, you did say that 41 was a new season, a new era. So like he's trying to
Deshaun's trying to work through the problem in his head.
He's trying to work through it. But his initial reaction was, you can't do this. Yeah. That's not right.
It really isn't right. And it's actually something that I was reminded of watching it again for the second time of Tony in season 40. I don't know if you remember this. Tony won immunity. And somebody stood up with an advantage that they gave to Jeff. And I believe, don't quote me on this, that was when Jeremy gave Jeff his safety with that power advantage and he was able to leave tribal. I think it was that tribal council. And Tony had immunity around his neck. And he's worried that somebody's going to play an advantage that got rid of his immunity necklace. And it's like, we all thought as fans, like, well, no, they're never going to do anything that would strip you of immunity as an advantage after you already won. Because that would be unfair. But let's be honest, Survivor loves pushing us to our limits on what we think is fair. And Deshaun asked the perfect question, what is fair?
That's true.
Like, not what is fair in the traditional sense in the world. Like, what is fair in Survivor? Nothing. Nothing is ever fair, ever.
But you have to have some sort of standard, because then what's the point of doing anything, I guess?
I agree. There should be. Yeah, no. I
think it's a little too far.
I'm just saying that's what Deshaun says, and that's what the show's pushing, because the show literally showed the conversation after the challenge, where Danny's like, I'm trying to process how I won a feast and immunity, and now I don't have immunity. And Deshaun's like, bro, you gotta just like move on and get over it, like, because Deshaun's like basically like, we can't change the rules of the game.
Right.
Whether we think it's fair or not is not important. What is fair?
Right. No, he's right. Especially as you're in the middle of the game, you can't allow things like that to distract you or to keep you from playing. But I mean, as an outsider, I disagree with it.
Well, the show is literally saying through the storytelling, and this is how they like affect how you think about the show and how you think about things, is do not worry about it. Do not think about, oh, that's not fair, because we often will be like, well, this twist, that's like literally not fair. We're undermining the game. And I do think immunity should be sacred. And in terms of like, you want immunity, that should be sacred. I get idols and stuff. And nullifying idols, I think, is fine. The idol was never like, and I almost feel like the necklace is like a chain, like not a chain, but like a lock. Like, you are locked.
Yeah.
You get that necklace, you're locked. And sure, like tribal immunity isn't literally a necklace, but it still feels like you won immunity through a challenge. That should be a lock. And it's like an idol is kind of like a toy. It's like an object. Like,
and it's true. They didn't get any necklaces or they didn't get any idols. The only thing that showed their immunity was the buffs.
Yeah. And Jeff stripped them of those buffs real quick. So that's really annoying because what sucks is, so obviously, I mean, if you've seen the episode, Sydney gets voted out. So Sydney had she had the merge buff. It was in her hands, you know, it was on her head. And then she had to get rid of it and she got voted out. She's not even on the jury. It's like she got teased so hard. She was inches from winning the challenge. The buff was on her head. It's like being at the altar. Your husband said, or wife says, I do. And then like 5 minutes later, like, just kidding. This was all a ruse. Bye. Like, I don't know. For some reason, that was the best comparison. Because I'm looking at my beautiful wife. And I thought, what if she did this to me? What if Jeff Probst merge buffed the whole marriage?
Just kidding.
Just kidding. We went to all this work and effort to win immunity. And nope, no longer do you have it. So, oh, great. My notes closed. I love when I close my notes. No, they're there. So yeah, we come back from the immunity though. Another important thing is, I think Liana says it like 3 times this episode, but she did say it the past few weeks as well. And I thought it was getting excessive. And I realized,
say the right thing to the right person.
Yeah. She like reminds us, and I wrote this down. I'm like, she reminds us again, emphasis on again about her advantage. And at this point, I'm like, they're setting us up. I'm like, she's clearly going to misplay this thing. Cause why else do we need to be reminded about the correct person, correct question? I'm like, she's gonna ask the wrong question. She's gonna ask the wrong person. Turns out it was the wrong person. Right. Obviously, but yeah. So, well,
I thought it was interesting that Xander immediately, I mean, for some reason it's obvious that it's Evie going, I guess because she almost won or something. So she has a target.
Oh, is that why Evie was the target?
They didn't really say why. They just said it's Evie.
So let's think about this. There's 4 targets on the table, right? There's only 4 people eligibly voted out of the game. And that is Deshawn, Evie, I'm tripping here.
Danny,
Sydney, obviously. It wasn't in Danny, right?
And Nasir. You keep forgetting about Nasir. It's 5 people.
5 people?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, because only 3 of them were really considered. And so it ended up being that it almost felt like, yeah, Nasir, Danny, Deshawn was a target of the Yas tribe. And he does get all 3 votes from them. But at Tribal, like how the votes actually played out was literally everyone else voted for Sydney or Evie. It wasn't really clear why Evie or Sydney.
Well, I think
except that Evie was considered a threat, but
what I think was from the previous episode. Remember how Danny asked Evie about the Women's Alliance kind of thing, and about how he was afraid because all the men kept going
at the merge feast. Yeah, that's true.
So I think that Evie was a target then, and then she almost won, and obviously Sydney almost won. So they just were taking out the 2.
And also, Deshawn did reference, I think this was at Tribal Council, how Evie told him that info about Xander, and it's like, and she just like gave it willingly, freely. And I will say that if you see someone doing that and you barely know them, that means they probably would do it to you too. You know what I mean? Like, you tell her information. Okay, well, if I'm telling her something, I have to consider that she could tell others about this, whatever it is I tell her. Nothing's sacred.
So you're saying that Evie proved herself like untrustworthy.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think that was mentioned as a reason to target her, but it's like a reason why people aren't looking to align with her. But let's be honest, nobody's trying to align with Xander and Tiffany either. They're on the outs.
Yeah, very much.
And what did they do wrong? I mean, they're just on the yellow. Why is the yellow tribe target number 1? And I think it's simple. Because as we saw last week, there was a black alliance formed, and they're on the blue tribe and the green tribe. And I mean, at that point, so the only person left is Sydney and Nasir and Evie. Like, right? Because Danny and Deshawn aren't going to be voted for. I mean, they're not going to be voted for by the majority, by that tribe, by that alliance. I don't know. It was very confusing in terms of, in my opinion, of why Sydney was a target, besides the fact that I guess she just didn't connect to people. I don't know. It's like, I love Nasir, but I feel like in the show it didn't make it clear why everyone else loves Nasir or not. He
wasn't really a main part of this episode at all.
But we've seen him multiple times like be like, hey, we're the final 4, or hey, let's us by the way, now it's hilarious how he's like, let's us as the Luvu tribe stick together and be the final 6. Obviously not. with the Sydney.
Yeah, that was
voted
obvious
out.
last week.
I know. I'm just saying, like, every time we see him, be like, hey guys, let's all band together and be a tight alliance. Every time it's like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, but I know Danny and Deshaun keep him. Seems like they're keeping him around for his vote and to make him feel loyal, or make him feel like he's a part of the group. But he's not like in tight with them at all. But they consider him as part of their numbers.
I feel like Nasir. I hope Nasir gets to the end, honestly. And if he won the game, I will be more than happy. I don't think it's gonna happen. I feel like Nasir's just in that like Christian Hubicki, Rick Devens spot as an edit where it's like, if he gets to the end, this dude's winning. Like, everybody just likes him. Like, who has said negatives about Nasir? Sydney. That was like really it. That's all we really saw.
That we've seen.
We've seen, of course, out of that limited time with Blue Tribe. So, yeah. So basically, Deshaun talks to, I don't know if his name was thrown out first, and that's why he says this, but he says, Evie's a threat. Leon is like, no, I don't want to turn on my yellow tribe already and show my cards. And Xander says he will play his idol for Evie, because Evie's like, comes over to Tiffany and Xander, and she's like, guys, I am about to be voted out. And Xander's like, I got you. I'll play my idol for you. And it was like, oh, tribe unity. Because Evie, as she acknowledges in the episode, would not have done this for Xander. No. If Xander was a target and Evie had the idol, she wouldn't have played it for Xander.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, was this the right choice for Xander? Because he could just try to align himself with the majority and just go with an easy vote as long as it's not him.
I feel like Xander and Tiffany were just on the outs, though. It wasn't like Evie specifically was on the outs. It felt like the entire yellow tribe was on the outs, with the exception of Liana. But Tiffany and Xander were not eligible to be voted for.
Right. And we kind of skipped over the fact about Tiffany outing Liana to Evie and to Xander about her advantage.
Oh, yeah.
Because they didn't know until that day.
So that flashback happened, and I was like, did we see this in a previous episode? And I forgot.
Oh, I thought it was that day. I didn't know it was a flashback.
No, it was a flashback where she's like, where she told Evie, and then Evie tells Xander about Liana's advantage. Oh. So it had to have been, if it actually, when it actually occurred, it had been last episode. But I don't think we ever saw that conversation happening. Yeah.
No.
I was confused for a second. I'm like, I'm like, this feels really familiar. But it's because we saw Tiffany find out about it through Chantel and Liana.
Right.
Yeah.
So not once again, but Tiffany is kind of
leading the charge.
Well, yeah, I guess leading the charge. I was going to say kind of showing that she's not being very trustworthy by spilling everyone's secrets, but it really was, I guess, to her advantage. It was to her alliance. To her alliance, sure.
Whereas Evie was literally volunteering information to
another tribe.
Deshaun, like, oh, Xander's being voted out tonight, so I'll just tell you this freely. Like, even if he is, why are you telling Deshaun this? As we said, like, when that happened. I remember, like, there were some comments that week when I was like, she made a huge mistake here. People were like, well, you just don't see Evie correctly. Evie made the right move. And it's like, no, man, like, this is a mistake. Like, there is no situation where even if Xander was voted out, I don't think it was the right decision, because it's just the action of throwing somebody under the bus to somebody you barely know. And it's like, I barely know you, and you're telling me this information. It makes me wonder, if I ever got in close with you, would you just tell people about me and what I have? So yeah, Evie's not winning. I wasn't sure how bad that would be, but it's clear if you're the target at the merge already, this is rough.
Right.
It's hard to get to the end now and win. So we saw it with like Christian Hubicki and Dave versus Goliath. He was a target like right at the merge. They're like, Christian's a massive threat. What are we doing here? Like, voting for Elizabeth. They still voted for Elizabeth at that first vote, but pretty much from then on out, it was like Christian. And David's are like playing every advantage in the book they have to keep him safe. And then until he eventually burns himself. So yeah, I don't know. But it'll be curious because, I mean, to be fair, everything we saw was with only 5 people to be eligible to be voted for. And next week, everyone except for potentially only one person. Right. Barring an advantage that strips you of an immunity necklace, ridiculous, being eligible. So it could just been Sydney was a matter of convenience and less so.
The main target was Evie.
Yeah. Oh, it was going to be Evie. They only split votes on Sydney because of an idol potentially being played on Evie. Yeah. So next week, Evie should be a big target again. but we will see. Who knows? Things always change. Because next time on Survivor didn't really give us much to chew on.
No.
It was like everybody's like, am I a target? Are you a target? Am I a target? Tiffany's like, am I a target? And Danny's like, yeah, you're a target. Like that was like I was like, that's it? That's all you're gonna like, this is nothing. Okay, well maybe. I was like, maybe on the flip side, maybe there's no advantages next week. And we'll just have a regular episide. Wouldn't that be novel?
That is not gonna happen. And you know
That's why I said, wouldn't that be novel? We're skipping over so much, or at least I am. I did write down this, so I didn't know if this was foreshadowing. What it's foreshadowing, I guess is a better word. It's definitely foreshadowing. Chantel says out loud in front of all of her alliance, she had a vision of the Black Alliance reaching the final four. And so either this does happen, and this is a huge foreshadowing moment, or this is like she's really expressing how close she is to the alliance, and somebody in this alliance is going to flip on them. And if it was Chantel flipping on them, that would be the biggest this would be like the biggest, like not foreshadowing is the right word, but like biggest setup to, I don't know. Who knows? Because Liana like so obviously said multiple times her thing, and then that was obviously being set up.
Well, if anyone flips it, I mean, I guess I can't say that. I was going to say if anyone flips, it'd be Chantel, because she
based on
seems
what
to
we've
be
seen in the past,
backstabbing everyone. But who knows, really?
I mean, yeah. But to be fair, we never saw her go, Brad's my number one, or JD's my number. I mean, to be fair, if you go back, like she did turn on these people, and I wonder if that will bite her in the butt here later in the game. But at the same time, we never saw her, I don't know. And then she got in a fight with Ricard. So who knows? I mean, out of the four of them, between her, Danny, Deshawn, and Liana, it feels like Chantel will be the first one to flip. But I feel like she was also a big proponent of the alliance too. So
well, and you know what else I thought was interesting, and I don't know if this is really important or not, but I think it was important, so I wrote it down. But Deshawn pulls Nasir aside to talk about the vote, and Nasir says, what does Shan say? What does she want to do? And I thought that was interesting, because already they're asking, oh, what does she think? And for some reason, Shan just has that personality of being like the leader.
Yeah.
And people are just drawn to that.
Well, if you watch the way like Shan talks, especially when she talks like Liana, and she's like, Liana's like kind of standing, in my opinion, in mostly a normal stance, but Shan's like kind of like leaned forward. If you ever see her in a strategic conversation, I'm messing up words here, strategic conversation, she's like leaning forward, and I'm visualizing for you, Mary, but for those at home, it's like she's kind of like leaning forward with her head in her like neck, and then she's like kind of like with her other hand smacking her other hand. And maybe this is just how I remember these scenes happening, and she never does that. But I remember this because I'm like, I feel like I've seen it so many times from her. She like kind of like has like hunched forward, like, so it's kind of like
intense stance.
Like her body stance really is like, I like you're saying words, but like what I'm saying is more important or more intense, or is what we're going to do. Like this is, or it's smarter. It's always like, it doesn't come across as we are having a normal conversation. It's definitely more like because she's being more intense. It's like, all right, well, we'll do what you want to do then.
I hadn't noticed that. What I notice whenever she's in a strategic conversation is that often she will say what she wants to happen, but then she very frequently follows it up with, or we see her follow it up with, but what do you think about that? Or what would be good for your game? So she's,
because that's the right question to ask.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is really smart of her. And I've noticed that a couple of times happening. So, but you could be right about the stance. I just haven't really noticed it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I encourage y'all just to take a look. I mean, I have footage playing in the video podcast as we speak. I just don't know. I edited that before we ever recorded this podcast. So I don't know if I included it in there, but if not, just rewatch the conversation she had with Liana in particular. In any week, really, because she does this when she talks like Ricard or JD. I mean, she did it all the time. So, okay, so I feel like there was a lot that happened at camp, but really the most important thing is Evie's the main target. Sydney's like, oh, F me if it's me, for lack of a better word on my end. That's kind of what she's basically saying. And Xander's like, I'm playing that out for Evie. So we go to tribal council, and it was like, you know, if you're East Coast, it was like 8:35, and it's like, we're going tribal with 25 minutes left. I mean, I know there's commercials, but holy cow, you know.
Yeah, like, the whole night felt a little off to me. Like, we start immediately with this challenge, and then
it's the immunity challenge. It's not like a reward.
Right, immunity challenge, and then a bunch of camp life, and then halfway through we're at tribal already,
it's all because of last week's episode felt weirdly paced too, and it's almost like I really wish this had been like, imagine if this had been a 2-hour like the last week's and this week. If this has just been one, like when you go back to binge this season, this will feel really good watching these episodes back to back. But in 2 separate weeks, it's like, this was a bad decision. This should have just been a 2-hour night, because if we had started the night with like, oh my gosh, these like Liana's knowledge is power is so overpowered, and Erica's whole thing, like, this is unfair, but by the end of the night it all works out and it's like a beautiful tribal council, we'd been like, you know what, at first I doubted, but what an amazing 2 hours instead of a whole week of naysayers, and including myself, like, you know. So yeah, I agree with you, the pacing was weird, really. So we go to tribal council, and there's so much talking that even upon rewatching, I'm like, I just like sat there. I remember last night I was sitting right next to you, and I was like, I think Xander has a fake idol.
You did, yeah.
I called it before it ever was revealed, and it's. I think everyone. I mean, if you, most of you may have picked up on that, but it like, I'm like, Xander's been doing a lot of obvious plays to let Liana know he has it, and I'm like, so it's one of two options. One is that he gives the idol to someone else, which is the most obvious one.
Right.
And I feel like Liana, by the way, we forget, is 20 years old, so she is on the gullible end of the age range. More gullible, I would say, than most older people. But so he's making it obvious to her. She's probably really nervous about her advantage. She literally had Chantel read it as well to make sure she's not misreading it. Like, you could tell she's really nervous about it, if it seems like. So she's got reassurance by going over to Xander. And then Xander's like at tribal council, pulls it out of his pants, and I'm like, he has a fake. I'm like, there's no way he still has this in his possession. He knows the rules that she has to ask before they ever cast votes.
He's too smart to not.
Oh, yeah. But his personality, his like persona is kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm just like the surfer guy, you know, like, you know, but he's not dumb. He's not dumb. He might play dumb, but he's really not even playing dumb. He's just like, if it's almost like if it was somebody else, maybe Liana wouldn't have bought it, but because it was Xander and she was so nervous, like he was able to basically pull a fake idol on her, and she asked with the biggest grin on her face, Xander, do you have an idol? And Xander's like, no, but you can have this fake one. And it's like, oh, and like the show even like has like no, like not no audio, but like almost like they leave room for you to like react to it in the show, which is not. Yeah, it was pretty great. It was a
really great moment in Survivor.
Pretty much all the talking leading up to them doing that was like nonsense. Like it was like, who cares? Twice I watched this episode and it all meant nothing, because immediately after that, everyone's standing up and talking.
Right.
And this is, I feel like, one of the few times it feels appropriate to do the live tribal.
I'm fine with live tribal. I don't see the problem with it.
But remember episode 1, there was a live tribal, and it's like, guys, it's the first episode. Do we need to be doing live tribals?
Sure, I guess especially at the beginning, you just have to vote. You just vote.
Yeah.
Like that's,
yeah. But like,
you should have talked about this before you got there. This is
probably the most appropriate, one of the most appropriate times to do it. I remember the first time it ever happened was in Game Changers with JT. And it was like, he was like, I got to do this. It was totally breaking the rules, by the way. But you didn't know that. The rules you were never supposed to get up. JT broke the rules, and they're like, we like this, so we'll allow it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. JT's a real game changer.
Real game changer. You know what I thought was very interesting about that section? That Erica is a part of that main alliance. Even though she was the one that flipped, technically. I really thought she would have been on the outs and been down with Xander and Tiffany or whatever. But she has
immunity, so even if she was, they're not going to talk about her in the sense of
I'm not saying like voting her out. I'm saying when everyone was gathered around talking.
Yeah.
Evie, Xander, Tiffany, and Sydney are sitting by themselves. Everyone else is in the big group except Nasir. Nasir was over there talking to them for some reason. They're like, Nasir, get over here.
Nasir should have been like hanging out with Jeff. That would have been hilarious. Like everyone's talking. Nasir's like, Jeff, so how are you doing? that is Nasir.
Funny. I just thought it was a little, I just wasn't expecting it. I really thought that she wasn't really a part of that group, but she was, and she voted with them. And so I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
Also, if you guys don't follow Nasir on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, follow him because he's hilarious. He literally posted a picture of him with a goat on AstroTurf the other week, and I was like, gold, pure gold. He literally bought like bought a piece of AstroTurf and brought it to wherever this goat was, because it was they weren't like at somewhere with AstroTurf. He brought the AstroTurf for this joke photo, and I'm like, gold. And he also like joked on, he's like, why did I say thank you, Flint, with like the perfect gif for it. So yeah, anyways, to the matter at hand. Yes, the live tribal. This is one of the few times, and you know what was great, it was they actually put subtitles, so like everyone talking, it was still madness, but like I remember, like, I think it was Winners at War, or maybe it was Edge of Extinction, where like they were doing live tribals and there was no subtitles, and we're just like, what are people talking about? Like we see who's talking to who, but we don't know what they're talking about. Well, I remember this one time during Edge of Extinction, I think it was the one where Julia doesn't get voted out, she makes it to the end. Or was it Julia? It was Julia, and Julia makes it. Either way, I'm messing this up. Somebody during Edge of Extinction during the post-merge got voted out. And I remember before it, Jeff's like, this is the craziest tribal council of all time. I'm like, okay, Jeff. And it was a live tribal, and I remember specifically after that episode, I'm like, they gotta put subtitles. Like, there was all this like talking, and I didn't know what anyone was saying. Yeah. Like, we might have caught some whispering, but like, just put subtitles. And they did that this time. Gotcha. They put a lot of subtitles, and I thank them for that. Just giving them a positive. Also, the game within a game, just randomly in the middle of live tribal.
It wasn't a good angle for it either. You could barely see it.
And normally I count, because I put it in our video, as you've seen. I count how long they give it in the episode. Normally it's about 4 seconds. Here it was like 2.5. Like, it went by so quick. Yeah. Like you said, oh, there it is. And like by the time I like was able to like pay attention to that, it was already gone. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Which is kind of unfortunate. Like, give it the time it needs. I do like the changing like, obviously I'm sure they weren't planning on doing it during a live tribal. I feel like they probably did a recording of it earlier, but they're like, here's the perfect transition out of commercial. And it's like we were in commercial, so I wasn't even paying attention to the TV. So yeah. But anyways, we'll talk about the Rebus puzzle later. So here's my notes. Xander pulls out the idol. I put fake ? Big brain move. This is before I knew. Deshaun references Evie snitching. We did talk about that earlier. I put, he does have a fake. Should have made Liana ask after the votes were cast. But then I learned by rewatching that she had to ask before the votes were cast. Dang it. I'm saying they should make if they ever do this power again, they should make it so you have to ask after the votes are cast, just for the extra drama. Like, imagine all the votes are cast. Liana with a big old fat grin on her face asks, Xander, do you have the idol? Xander's like, nope, here's a fake. Oh no.
But this way he knew it was going to shake them up, and he knew they probably would split the vote, and he didn't have to play it.
Well, true. I mean, in that sense it worked out, but it would have been like, then he wouldn't have had it. It would have been followed by Tiffany, who actually had it, which by the way was smart to give it to Tiffany and not Evie, because who are they not going to ask? They're not going to ask Tiffany. They had him play it, and it would have been like, Evie does not count. Evie, like, times like 13 or however many votes, like, Evie does not count. And it would have been Deshaun. Deshaun would have voted out. I like Deshaun, by the way. This is not me saying I want Deshaun gone, but I'm saying that
it just would have been epic.
It would have like, it's so weird that they made him ask before, but maybe they wanted a live tribal. Depends on what Survivor wants. If they want like the epic does not count 15 times, they would have her ask after the votes. But I guess they wanted a live tribal, and they got it.
I don't know. To me, it just makes more sense to do it before. I don't know.
I'm open. I'm just saying, since we've done it before now, we saw what that comes out with. Let's try it after if we ever do it again.
Gotcha.
Let's force them to ask after. It cannot be before the votes. So that, and then but I feel like Xander doing this is like, we've already gotten the perfect result out of this advantage. Let's never do it again.
Yeah, will they go hide it again now that's been used?
I do think it's ironic that the advantage called knowledge is power was so openly spread to everyone. You know,
everyone knew about the knowledge is power.
To be fair, Shan asked Liana if she got an advantage. She didn't ask, hey, what advantage did you get? And what are all the powers associated with it in front of Tiffany? You know, Liana could have been like, yeah, I got an extra vote. And like, you know what I mean?
Or she could have said, no, I didn't get an advantage. Did you not do it? Or whatever?
I think it was only her and Shan that went, so Shan didn't get it.
Obviously, but in front of Tiffany.
But I'm saying she could have said she got an advantage. She could have. If
she could have.
Let's say she'll say you get blindsided by the question. You're like, yes. Oh crap, I said yes. Because that's usually how these things happen. If you're just being an honest person, you're not like in lying mode all the time. So let's say she says no. I mean, Tiffany might be sus. Be like, well, why would Shan ask that?
Right.
You know, you guys were the only two at the summit. But let's say she says yes. She doesn't have to tell Tiffany the real power. Yeah, she's like, I got an extra vote. You know, Like, because that's so realistic because everyone else has gotten one pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. She blew it herself. I mean, Shan had helped, but.
Oh, yeah, Shan helped.
Okay, so Sydney plays her shot in the dark.
Which she should have.
A shocker. I didn't see this coming.
Was really hoping that it would have worked because that would have been really epic. But
well, Evie would have gone then. And then Xander's whole thing would have been worse off.
Well, I don't know because I think Xander would have given her the idol.
Oh, I see. And then Deshaun would have gone home.
Then Deshaun would have gone home.
Yeah,
it would have been really interesting.
You're right, because I can't confirm this because we haven't heard from Xander himself, but it definitely felt like because Sydney lost her vote and didn't have the shot in the dark, Xander's like, I think the numbers add up. Because obviously, if they're splitting the votes evenly, the 10 of them between Sydney and Evie, if Sydney's not voting, well, she wasn't going to vote for herself originally. She would have had to vote for Evie. So that means it's...
No, she would have voted for Deshaun.
Sydney would have voted for Evie, I feel like. You think she would have voted for Deshaun?
Yeah, she would have voted for Deshaun.
So no matter what, Sydney had the most votes. I
Yeah.
really felt like... Because the vote ended up being a 5-4-3 vote. And I know Sydney says, I'll vote for Deshaun. It kind of felt like, I'll vote for Deshaun if you just don't vote for... It felt more like a desperation. It didn't feel real. Man, if you told me Sydney would have voted for Evie, I'd believe you. Let's put it that way.
Okay, sure.
Without talking to Sydney ourselves, I'm just taking a guess here.
Sure.
So if Sydney votes for Deshaun, that's 5-4-4. It makes no difference. But if Sydney voted for Evie, what I'm saying is no matter what, regardless, Sydney couldn't have voted for anyone but Evie or Deshaun. Mm-hmm. Right? But she loses her vote. So he knows for a fact, okay, the split would have to be 5-4. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, it could have been, don't get me wrong, could have still been 5 on Evie. I don't know. Maybe he just had a gut feeling. I thought he did some incredible math, personally.
I just think he had a gut feeling.
A 5-4-3 vote. Oof. Well,
that's pretty close.
Yeah, I almost like cutting really close. Whole time the votes getting revealed, Evie's like, oh no. Yeah. And Xander's like, it'll be fine. And
then
it came
even
down to
Xander was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if that last vote was about to reveal, he's like, I'm so sorry. So maybe you're right. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he was just doing a gut feeling
or maybe he thought he did the math and did it wrong.
Yeah,
and was really confident.
It was 4-4 Sydney and Evie. So it was literally a coin flip in your brain of who's going to go, and it was Sydney. Mm-hmm. Which is fine by me, by the way. Sydney, while has been a small character, could have been a fun villain, but she never had any never felt like she had any agency in the game. So to be a villain, you either got to cause mass chaos or have some sort of power, and she didn't really have either.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's the last time we hear from Sydney, because I know some questions on our listener questions were, will Sydney come back? I don't think so. I mean, I can't say no,
Who
but
knows?
I feel like there are so many other female characters that would be brought back before Sydney, like Chantal, like Evie, before Sydney. But I could be wrong. So Sydney plays a shot in the dark. It fails. I put Xander's right about idol play. Had Sydney not played the shot, though, she would have, I said, could have voted for Evie. So even I didn't agree on that. So yeah, big brain stuff.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the next time on Survivor? Well, let's jump. You want to jump over to Rebus first? No,
I just wanted to mention something that you brought up that I didn't even notice, but I thought it was interesting, was that they did, if it wasn't the Winners at War theme at Tribal, it was something really, really similar.
No, it was. It was definitely the Winners at War voting theme.
Which I thought was interesting.
It was such a good choice.
Because for being a brand new season, a brand new era and everything.
Drop the 4.
Drop the 4.
Drop the 4 as we reference past seasons.
We're using the last season's theme song at Tribal, which I haven't done a lot of study at the music at Tribal Council, but in general, just from my very casual watching, I feel like the Tribal music almost always stays pretty constant.
But you did just release a video, not but yesterday, maybe 2 days ago, talking about the music for 4 separate seasons. So we encourage you to watch that.
Sure.
About where you do include Tribal Council music in there, including Winners at War. Mm-hmm. So.
Right. And from what I remember from doing the research of that video, Tribal Council is pretty consistent. Winners at War changed it up, which is good. So I'm just finding it interesting that maybe Winners at War is going to be the new Tribal Council. But we haven't heard it until tonight. Yeah. So yeah, it was very interesting to me. Frankly,
it's the best song from Winners at War with these for the voting music. And I think the use of it here was good if it's the only time. But I do think like, yeah, you should be using your own music for your own season. And I don't think there's been any music this season that has really stood out to me as like, oh, here's Survivor 41's theme. Like the fact that we reused the theme from Winners at War, I think says a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, because Winners at War had a very distinct soundtrack.
Did.
Yep. So, okay. Let's move on to the Rebus puzzle now if you're good with that.
Yep.
Okay, so what was on the Rebus puzzle this week? And also, if you're here to just hear what the solution is, we are also going to tell you what's next time on Survivor, because Jeff does give us some info about next week because we solved the Rebus puzzle. So go ahead, Mary.
So this was the very first one I ever entered an answer and didn't get it right the first time, surprisingly. So it was a picture of a bride minus BR and then a ball minus B. So I'm even like, oh, of course, idol, bride, ball, all idol. So I just put an idol, not even thinking about, I was a little tired, not even thinking about the fact that the picture is inside. I thought it just had a cute, pretty border, but it was actually inside a pocket. So the actual answer, correct answer was idol in my pocket or idol in your pocket. I think either answer would be accepted. I put your. I think I put your, yeah.
Well,
so that was interesting. It was a good one. And when you answer it, the video that pops up, Jeff was like, good job. That was the hardest one we've done all season. And
fair.
And I was like, well, yeah, actually, because I just rushed it. I didn't look at it closely. But that was fun.
So what's next time on Survivor?
So the next time on Survivor, it really wasn't a lot. It was if you had the chance to give up individual immunity for a tribal advantage, would you? So individual immunity versus something for the whole tribe.
Yeah, I wonder if that means somebody's actually going to do this next week, or if it's just the opportunity will be presented in a general sense to everybody. Who knows? Could be like, you don't get immunity, you get, I don't know if they'll do that. That seems too simple. You get food, yeah. Yeah, you get like a bag of rice, like a small bag of rice just for you, personal sized. All right, so let's move on to the winners analysis section. You know what? 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I put Tiffany as my number one. And then last week I put her, I'm locking her in. Of course, I locked in my final. I locked in 3 people, but apparently, like Survivor, what is fair? What is locked in, really? But I was
don't say words you don't mean.
2 weeks ago, we went from, you're crazy for considering Tiffany the winner, to last week being like, oh, no, I agree with you. And it's like, there's been a sudden shift. Maybe everyone saw what I saw. I don't know. I also think that there might be a spoiler out there or something, because it was an overwhelming shift from you're crazy to I think you're right. And so I don't want to, please do not tell me spoilers. I don't want to know, because somebody's like, I read some spoilers. Like, please don't tell me. Please. I don't want to know. I want, that's the whole, half the fun of Survivor for me is figuring out who is going to the end and who's winning. So anyways, so let's get into this. Mary, who are your top 2? Or is it top 3?
I actually have top 3 now.
Oh.
So I'm still sticking with Xander and Shan, and I will give you reasons why.
That's fine. Yeah.
Once again, Shan is because we keep mentioning, like I said, that clip of Nasir and Deshaun.
That is Nasir.
Like, what does Shan think? And you do see Shan just initiating a lot of things. We still hear from Shan all the time. So yeah, she's still up there for me. We'll see how she does in the merge as far as her relationships and not backstabbing anyone.
It is undeniable. She is a massive character.
She's a massive character. She's really liked and she's really smart. So I just think she's a great player, and I think it would be cool to see her go far, and I could see her winning. I'm still sticking with Xander because, again, super smart. Tonight was a big evidence of that. And super likable, flies under the radar for the most part. Now I feel like he's going to have a big target on his back, and he's going to have to do some major switching around to get the focus on somebody else, which I think he could do. But this was the first time I actually was a little bit afraid for him because
even though in the pre-merge he lost his vote, but they didn't go to tribal like after the Voce vote.
Right.
So
he was fine.
I think he was, but I do think if they had gone to tribal in the pre-merge after the Voce, I think he was gone. So it's for his own benefit. It's a good thing they kept winning immunities.
Right.
Yeah.
So I still would consider him because, again, I think if anyone could pull off a turnaround after this, that he could do it. And as we've seen, everyone's a target next week.
Yeah.
So,
and he was even complimented for his move this week.
Right. And that could be something where he's just banking on, oh, they're going to like that
Respect
I'm playing, which no one actually ever respects you making big moves. Sure, they might respect it, but they want you gone because you're making big moves.
Yeah.
But
well, if you're at Final Tribal, it's like people need to like you. And then if they like you, they want you to have big moves. Because if they don't like you, your big moves aren't going to make up for a lack of.
Right. Well, Final Tribal, sure, you want to have big moves.
That's what I mean, Final Tribal.
Yeah. You just can't make them too soon, I think.
Yeah,
I
and
think
here we are with the Final 12.
Right.
Oh,
A little soon. So my third person that I'm considering is Erica, which I know you brought her up earlier.
I did. One time, 1 week, and I was like, I made a mistake.
And then you said you made a mistake. The only reason I'm bringing it up is I do think it's interesting that after switching and taking away everyone's immunity, she's still like considered to be in that. So I could just see her as being someone who is so sweet and everyone's like, oh, she's fine.
Yeah,
just
she's
let
like
her.
A non-threat.
Non-threat. You know, she's just going to fly under the radar until the end and then win because everyone likes her. But
you know what? To that point, I made a video, I believe about maybe a year and a half ago, where I talked about how, you know, the perception of what people have about you is super important. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, there are pros and cons to perception for everyone. And what I'm saying here is that Erica has a perception that not only, I mean, she's wearing a Disney princess dress, like at least the style to me is what I feel like when I get from it. So she leans into this whole sweet, non-threat, like, yeah, she could get to the end on that.
Right.
Like, does she win because of it? No. But that's very smart of her to lean into that because she should not be like a little chihuahua, like barking at your, you know, nipping at your heels. Like I'm a threat, you know, like, oh, I'm playing a strong game. Oh, like that's just not her personality. And it would be, if she did that, people would be like, we need to get rid of Erica. She's annoying the crap out of me. Also, it might be a big threat. But I think in this case, it's smart of her to lean into that perception. So, but yeah, good picks. So we'll start at the bottom of my list and move up as usual. So my list has changed, but my number one is still the same. So my number 3 is Xander. I'm agreeing with you. I remember I was high on Xander. Like, well, first off, I think it was the first week. You were like, Xander Wesley, don't forget Xander. I was like, okay, I'll pay attention. I think it was like week 2, 3, and 4. I was like, oh no, I see Xander. And then I feel like because Yellow didn't go to Tribal, I kind of forgot about Xander in terms of like, I'm like, well, we're not really seeing much of him. But now that Xander's back in the forefront, yeah, I feel good about Xander going far. I'm not sure if he's a winner, but I get a great feeling about him going far.
Yeah.
So maybe I feel like Xander's going to be like, if you guys remember Edge of Extinction, it became like a whole, who's the biggest target of the week kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's who we're eliminating. And I feel like at some point, maybe like 5, 6, 7, maybe in that range, maybe 8, hopefully not. We'll be like, well, Xander's the biggest target left. We need to get rid of him. Like he can only avoid our guns for so long, but yeah, I feel good about him. So I don't know if he'll be the winner, and eventually I'll short my list to 2 because the less people we have, we can't have like 3 people on our list. We're at 11 people left. I'm gonna have to shorten this to 2 eventually. So, but number 2, I know I mentioned him before, is Deshaun, and he's just like, he's the face of the Blue Tribe. Like he's been there the whole time, and it's just Blue never went to Tribal before, and it's like, I don't know where Deshaun is. And I know all of Yellow voted for Deshaun this week. I get that. But I didn't feel like, I just felt like it was a matter of like, we only got like really like a few targets available. And we're just trying to pick somebody who we can get votes on because nobody's voting for, nobody's going to vote for Nasir. Danny wasn't even mentioned. So right. I feel good about Deshaun because I feel like he has like a somewhat of a story set up. And has been like the kind of the voice of the Blue Tribe, like we are a mess of a tribe. We're full of like cracks or whatever he said. And we don't get like the edit. Like Nasir's like, I love our group. Let's be the final 6. And Deshaun's like, that's not happening. And what happens is exactly what Deshaun said. The edit supports how Deshaun sets up things. Not always. I mean, Deshaun said, let's throw a challenge to get rid of Evie. And that didn't happen. Right. And then he said, Evie will be the downfall of me if we don't get rid of her. And so it's possible. At some point, Evie, your sweet little, I'm sorry, not Evie, Erica, my bad.
I was very confused.
I'm sorry. No, Erica. He said, we need to get rid of Erica. So we don't get rid of Erica. She's going to get me out of this game. And so it could be foreshadowing, maybe you saying Erica, maybe Erica like knocks Deshaun out and then wins the game, like makes some big move.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, holy crap, she knocked out the Kingpin. So, but I don't know. I feel good about Deshaun. But kind of like Xander, I'm not, it's just, I really have one person who I'm 100% solid on, and it's Tiffany. Like, she wins or she's going to the end and she's like second place. Like, Tiffany is in this for the long haul. I was a little concerned. She got like 0 confessionals this week. But despite that, she had a lot of screen time. So it's not all about confessionals. The number of confessionals is not an indication. It's all about the quality and the quality of your screen time. And Tiffany was still at the forefront of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Even if she had no confessionals. But I do want to mention, and this is a big one, and I told this to you, I think the other night, was in the past 40 seasons, at the merge vote, the vote for the first vote of the merge. And I don't know if this one counts. I'm a little confused because half of the people were merged and half were not. So I'm not sure if we count this as the merge vote. You know, I'm a little confused. Like, maybe the next vote's the merge vote. I don't know. But I have a fun fact here that out of the last 40 seasons, only 6 times did the person who ended up winning the season not vote correctly at the merge on the first vote of the merge. And of course, the past 40 seasons has been super clear as to who, as the one the merge was.
Right.
And so is this the merge? I don't know. Tiffany voted incorrectly though. And that gives me, and it's like, sure, that number doesn't mean like,
well, so did Xander. So
yeah, true. So did Evie. Not that Evie's on my
Evie
hit
wasn't
list
on
anymore.
either of our list.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to think of everyone who voted wrong. I mean, anyone who voted for Evie was wrong too. So, and I don't have the whole list in front of me, but my point is that people on my hit list here, Deshaun, Tiffany, Xander. I don't know if Deshaun voted for Evie or if he voted for Sydney. I have to go back and look.
I don't know.
But that's just a fun fact. The last 40 seasons, only 6 times. And I think the first time that the winner did not vote for the correct person was Chris in Vanuatu. Remember, he was trying to get the women, and the women ended up slicing the men up and down. And then the last time was in Game Changers with Sarah. I forgot who Sarah voted out or tried voting out the merge. But so the first time was in Vanuatu. Last time was in Game Changers. So
very interesting.
We'll see if that holds through. Maybe we count next week as the merge, since that's technically the first time somebody goes in the jury. I don't know. If Tiffany does it wrong again, I'm not going to feel great. Not going to feel any better. But okay, so let's move on to our new segment for just this week. Very briefly, we're going to talk about the purple edit. I have a video called What is the Survivor Purple Edit? If you don't know, but long story short, it is when you're on the show and nobody knows who you are.
And no one ever talks about you.
And no one ever talks about you, and the show chooses not to show any content about you. And in this season, we have Heather.
Purple Heather.
I don't even know who, like, I know Heather said like a line at Tribal Council. She's like, Jeff, this is crazy, or something like that. And I feel like that's the first time we've heard from her since the time she cried at a challenge.
Probably.
Why did she get all that like emotional they did that, and I'm like, okay, maybe we're like, now Heather's a character in the show, but no, since then she's been Purple Heather.
No, that was just a feel good moment because they're pushing lots of feel good moments.
Yeah. It was her sob story.
Yeah.
It was like, really, like, Heather's had 2 confessionals all season, and as I've said before, confessionals are not an indication of whether you're going to win or not. But I will say confessionals are an indication of how big of a character you are.
Yeah.
The more confessionals you get, the bigger the character. And Heather has 2. So I remember at one point, this sounds so funny now. There was like, I don't know, it's been crazy. Like preseason, everyone's like, Ricard's winning. And then once like the first couple weeks, everyone's like, Heather's winning. I'm like, where are you getting Heather's winning from? And now everyone's gone really silent on Heather winning. I mean, she's still in the game, but she has been purpled to all heck. I don't know what she did wrong. I don't know why she's not even getting like, I love these people. Like, she didn't get nothing. I love being merged. Nothing like that. Nothing.
Yeah.
I feel bad we got immunity stripped. Like, nothing even simple like that. I feel so bad for her. Imagine going on the show, watching it with your family, and then just, I got a line at Tribal. That's it. You know, even though you've been in the majority, you've been on the winning tribe. Anyways.
She has some good reactions sometimes. Like, she's very expressive with her face.
And Jeff called her fat.
What?
Remember, it was the greatest teamwork ever in the history of Survivor, lifting her up that thing. Like, wow, amazing. So
no, I just noticed that they cut to her sometimes to show like a big, if they want a big reaction for something.
Tiffany had some big reactions too. I noticed at Tribal.
Well, she's very expressive.
Oh too. Yeah, Tiffany is. Yeah, Tiffany. You know, it reminds me a lot of Sandra. I know we're in the purple section. Tiffany reminds me of Sandra in a lot of ways. I'm going to talk about this more next week.
Okay.
We've already gone through our winter analysis section. All right, so let's move on to TV ratings. Last week, we went probably way too in-depth about it, but I was so excited to talk about it. But so if you were here last week and you listened to the TV rating section, you're all caught up. But if you didn't, I'll briefly catch you up. Long story short is from the premiere of this season up through last week's episode, every single week, viewership was down. I don't care about the overall number. I know that if you compare it to like Winners of War, Island of the Idols, it doesn't matter. The number to me is not as important as just the general downward trend, because I understand more people stream, people, they don't count those numbers for streaming, I guess, long story short, or just some people just stop watching TV. I mean, TV just gets less and less popular every year, like live TV. So the general idea here, and I have a chart on the screen for you, is that the numbers were just going down and down and down. But this week we actually had a pop. I'm sorry, not pop, a pop up, I guess what I was going to say, but we went up. So last week it went down to a dismal 5.317 after we started the season at 6.249. But this week up to 5.471. So we went up about 150,000 people. And so for the first time ever all season, we actually had we went up a little bit.
Very interesting.
And I'm hoping that it goes up the rest of the season, because this was a really good episode. And so I kind of wonder if the East Coast had such a good time watching the episode that like people saw on social media, oh, this is a good episode, better tune into this. So people did on the West Coast.
Like people were talking about the live travel or something.
Oh yeah, and this whole Xander move and everything. Sure. I feel like that could have been part of it.
Yeah.
Because it was only 150,000. It wasn't like a big jump up.
Well, didn't you also say that the merge episode is typically tracked higher?
Traditionally, the merge episode is usually one of the most watched episodes of every season. And so actually, if we had popped up to 6 million, that would have made way more sense. It was a very small pop. But we'll see. If Survivor has they don't overload us with advantages the rest of the season, I could see the ratings going back up just in general throughout the rest of the season. Of course, last week was the World Series, and then the World Series ended, I think, yesterday, 2 days ago, something like that, right before this week's Survivor episode. So there's no World Series to contend with, I mean. And the Masked Singer, by the way, has so quickly gone from being a ratings juggernaut to going down the tubes.
Really?
Yeah. I went and looked at the numbers earlier, Masked Singer. First 3 seasons, it was like 11 million, 9 million an episode. Like, that's outpacing Survivor, except for during COVID when they had Winners of War. But no, since then, Masked Singer has been going downhill. I think people are just getting tired of it. I think the novelty's worn off. But yeah, kind of happens when you do 2 seasons a year on something that doesn't have like I don't know. Survivor's just a different beast. It's one of the few shows I feel like can do 2 seasons in a year and get away with it. So that's the ratings for this week. Do you have anything you wanted to mention about that?
No.
Do you want to tell everyone why you told the West Coast it was so good and they tuned in because they only listened to you?
What?
I don't know. I was just burning time till I got to your listener questions. I have these pulled up. Are you ready, Mary?
I'm ready.
Okay. First question is from one of our favorite people, Giovanni. I love his name. He asked, we kind of just talked about this. Is Heather the most invisible player since Chelsea from Ghost Island? Mary, this is a great question. Do you know who Chelsea is from Ghost Island?
No, I don't.
She was also purpled. Do you know who Wendell is from Ghost Island?
Yes.
What about Dominic?
Yes.
Do you know who Chelsea is?
No.
To be fair, those were the first and second place people in comparison. So, all right, next question is from Survivor X. Was less amount of people eligible for a vote a good thing or a bad thing for the merge?
Well, it's a very interesting thing, I would imagine.
I think it was bad in terms of like, I forgot who was eligible at times to be voted for. I'm like, wait, why aren't we considering, Liana?
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like...
It was just confusing.
It was a little in terms of the confusion, but I think it was a good thing in terms of the drama. Like, it definitely like made a lot of drama. So I think it was an overall net positive. What do you think?
I don't... Sure. I guess the good kind of outweighed the bad for me in this. It is, to me, just another one of those, like, another random new thing we have to learn about or deal with.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. So it's my opinion.
I think it overall worked out. I'm not sure if it was worked out in spite of Survivor or because of Survivor, but it worked out. Next question is from, I think it's Riondo. It's Rlando. So not Riondo. Rolando. Anyways, asks, did Sydney have the saltiest exit message ever? No. You need to watch Guatemala. Because Judd has the saltiest exit message ever.
That was pretty funny, yeah.
You guys go by freaking crocodiles, or whatever he said. Freaking crocodiles. He's like a bunch of scumbags. Judd has the saltiest. And even in his exit words, he's so salty, so salty. No, Sydney did not. But her words were pretty good. That's why I was like, if Sydney had been like a massive villain, she's never had the chance. Sydney didn't cast a single vote the entire season. Do you realize that?
Oh, that's true.
She never went to tribal council, and the one time she did, she didn't get to vote.
Wow.
So I think this is
has to be a record.
Gosh, it's not the only person to never vote at tribal council, because Pat from David versus Goliath was literally medevac in the first episode before they ever went to tribal council. But if you want to say she's the only person to ever go to tribal council and not cast a vote, I think that's accurate. So
very interesting.
Yeah, Pat never even saw tribal council. All right, Brian asks, in your opinion, does Liana have a shot at being the winner? Because that was so bad from her today.
Well, she wasn't in our winner analysis, so probably not. She's a little too inexperienced, I guess. I guess I can't say that, but you know what I mean? Like, she seems to be led easily by other people.
It was weird because I've seen a lot of people saying that Liana, like, you're sleeping on Liana, and I'm like, no, I don't think Liana has anything setting up to be a winner. I think Liana's just a player in the game, and she's going to get voted out sometime in the merge. I don't think she's even reaching the end. Like, she's just not been set up in any way to go far and be the winner. The winner usually has some telltale signs. I have a video on the Patreon right now telling you, where I break down the last, I think, 6 winners and like the telltale signs of like, when there's a winner, here's the things they're gonna give to you. And nothing's changed this season, in my opinion. If Tiffany is the winner, they've set all the same things up. New era, my butt. So anyways, all right, next question we have is from Captain Cold. Was Sydney using her shot in the dark a mistake? Because she loses her vote, and we kind of touched on this earlier. So let's say she doesn't play her shot in the dark and she votes.
If she voted for Evie, she would have stayed, right?
Yeah.
If she voted for Deshawn, she wouldn't have.
And so it makes you wonder, because when she gets voted out, she says, I shouldn't have used my shot in the dark. I lost my vote, or something like that. And it's like, okay, is she implying that she would have voted for Evie? Because I think on a revote between Sydney and Evie, Evie's gone. Because Xander can't play the idol on a revote.
Right.
Yeah.
But if Xander would have known that Sydney didn't use the shot in the dark, and he may have played the idol.
That's true. And I do think that if Sydney had not played, I think the shot in the dark made Xander say, let's see what happens. I think we got this. But because she played her shot in the dark, I'm saying, I think he tried doing the numbers in his head real quick, and he's like, no, let's not do it. Or he was trusting his gut, one or the other. But yeah, no, if Sydney doesn't play her shot in the dark, they should play their idol.
So it probably was a mistake.
Okay, yeah, because they play her idol and Evie. Sydney goes either way. I mean, either way, Sydney's gone in that situation. She votes for Evie. They play her idol. Evie's safe. Sydney has the most votes still. Deshawn,
so then she should have played the shot in the dark, because she might have got the immunity.
Or Sydney. The only other scenario is Sydney doesn't play her shot in the dark. She votes for Deshawn. They do play the idol and Evie. It's a split vote between Deshawn and Sydney. Oh no, they're voting out. They're voting out Sydney on a revote.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I don't know if Yassol holds strong and
draw
Sydney
rocks.
No matter what.
In the moment, I probably would have done the same thing.
In the moment, yeah, but it's like, you know what? No matter how you break this down, Sydney's a goner.
Probably.
There's just like almost no situation where Sydney is not the one going home. And if somebody can break it down how there was a situation where she didn't, meaning like no different result from shot in the dark, then I would love to hear it. All right, next question is from Brian Stevens. In your opinion, does Liana have a shot at being... Oh, that we already answered that question. I just saw it again. All right, next question is from... I don't even know how to say this word, so I'm not going to say it. Are you still high on Tiffany making it to the end with her seemingly going to have to make it from the bottom? I think they're saying that Tiffany's on the bottom. You know what? Drake said it. Start from the bottom, now I'm here. And I've never referenced Drake in my entire life till right now.
Still in the winners. Edit for you. Analysis.
If you didn't listen to the winners analysis, listen to that. Yeah. Okay. Next question is, it's 2 questions. Wow. 2 for 1. They ask, do you think Sid should have made the jury? Start there.
What is fair?
Yeah. What is fair? Great question. What is fair? What is the jury? We saw literally everyone make the jury in Edge of Extinction and Winners at War, except for those who quit the Edge of Extinction. Sure. Why not? If you're asking, should I think she had made the jury? Yeah. I mean, she got to be on a beach with everyone. She did meet everyone. It's not like a situation where I think it's unfair where like Reem was on the jury. Even though I love Reem, she shouldn't have been on the jury because she didn't get to meet everyone.
Right.
Like she never interacted with Gavin or Julie. So it was Julia. Now I remember from earlier. Julia was the one voted out. It was confusing because Julia and Julie are two different. Anyways. All right. And the other question is, will Xander, Tiffany, and Evie be able to survive?
I hope so.
I think this could be a situation where it's like they're a group of 3, Lavu's a group of 5, and Ua's a group of 2.
Mm-hmm.
If Ua and Lavu get together, I don't know, man. We just don't know. Without everyone being eligible, it's hard to tell. But
right. I think they'll get far. I don't think it's going to be a boom, boom, boom. They're gone.
Here's the question. So if Evie goes, is the threat of Tiffany and Xander enough for them to focus on those two? I think people like Shan will start getting paranoid and thinking about other things. Like it'll be too easy.
Right.
But I think Evie's still target number 1. So if Evie's gone, I think Xander and Tiffany might be better off. But I think they did save their hide in a lot of ways by keeping Evie here one more tribal council to keep her the target. And I'm sure they were thinking, oh, we can keep Evie because she's our. But no, it's like keeping Evie a target is probably your best bet for another episode. So, all right, that's all the questions I have. Do you have anything else, Mary?
No, it's a pretty interesting episode.
Well, next week we have a special guest. So, see you next time.
Bye.